I got some feedback today that Storyworks was not working, so although I won't do this for every text, I thought I would read it out loud today until I think of a better backup plan. The Snake That's Eating Florida. Two texts explore an invasive species and what to do about it by Lauren Tarshis. The Snake That's Eating Florida. Enormous snakes are taking over one of America's most prized wilderness areas. Can they be stopped? One January morning in 2003, a group of families was exploring Florida's Everglades National Park. It is a unique and beautiful wilderness, 2,400 square miles of protected wetlands. The visitors were admiring the wonders around them, rivers of gold grass stretching in all directions, the songs of frogs and crickets ringing in the humid air, the smell of orange blossoms from distant orchards. The group had high hopes for the day. Perhaps they'd see pink flamingos or majestic blue herons. Maybe they'd even catch a glimpse of an endangered Florida panther. As it turned out, the visitors were about to see something more unusual and horrifying than they could have imagined. Not far from the park's entrance, they noticed a violent splashing in the water. As they approached, they saw a massive alligator wrestling with an enormous snake. They would later learn that the snake was a Burmese python, a species not naturally found in the Everglades or anywhere in North America. The alligator had its jaws clamped around the snake. The snake was wrapping around the alligator. The animals struggled like monsters in a horror film. Some of the visitors caught the scene on camera. Within days, the footage was broadcast on TV stations and websites around the world. To most people, this fight was little more than a thrilling and gruesome show. But to many wildlife experts, it was a symbol of a problem, a big, slithery problem. For years, some officials in the Everglades had been warning that Burmese pythons were living and breeding in the park. They worried that these enormous beasts could have a devastating impact on the fragile environment of the Everglades. The wrestling match helped capture the world's attention. But was it already too late? A match to the death. This python split open when it tried to swallow an alligator. The arrival. The first Burmese pythons arrived in the United States innocently enough, as pets. Some Americans have always enjoyed keeping strange, beautiful, and even dangerous creatures in their homes. Though many would agree that this is unwise, even cruel, thousands of Americans own exotic pets, animals that are wild or don't normally live in the US. Want a white tiger? How about a baboon? Or maybe you're interested in a mamba, a snake whose bite can kill a grown man in minutes. Unfortunately, all of these animals are easily and legally available for sale in parts of the US. Burmese pythons became popular as pets in the early 1990s. They were cheap, just $20 to $30 a snake. They're not venomous or aggressive toward humans. As babies curled up into tiny coils, they look quite cute. But then these adorable hatchlings grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. An adult Burmese python can be more than 20 feet long. That's LeBron James times 3. The snakes have enormous appetites for live animals. Not surprisingly, many buyers soon regret their purchases. And then what? Your friend might be happy to adopt the kitten you're allergic to, but a 20-foot snake that eats live bunnies? Many people end up setting their snakes loose in the wild. In many areas of the US, an abandoned snake would die of cold or starvation, but not in Florida. The climate is ideal for pythons, and no place in Florida is more perfect for them than the tropical Everglades. Carried by winds. Pythons were first spotted in the Everglades National Park in the mid-1990s. People wondered, had just a few cast-off pets made their way into this protected wilderness? Or had the snakes reached the park in other ways? No one was sure. Some people blamed Hurricane Andrew, which slammed into Florida in 1992. The storm was a whopper, a Category 5, the strongest. It killed 65 people and destroyed thousands of homes and businesses. Among the wrecked buildings, a warehouse full of exotic reptiles. Its collection included hundreds of baby Burmese pythons. Most of those babies died in the storm, but a few of the tiny snakes could have been carried away by the winds. The winds were blowing west that day. It was a straight shot to the Everglades. Did some of the babies make it to the park? At this point, it no longer matters how the snakes got to the Everglades. Today, their population is out of control. By some estimates, there could be as many as 100,000 pythons in the park. Their exact numbers are unknown. The snake's green and brown scales help them blend into the wetlands, making it nearly impossible to count them. But there is no doubt that pythons pose a grave threat to the fragile Everglades ecosystem. Areas where the pythons can survive in the wild. Invasive species. Burmese pythons are an invasive species, a plant or an animal that is brought to a new environment and damages the species already living there. An estimated 5,000 invasive species live in the United States, with more reported each year. In some cases, the damage these invaders cause is devastating. Just ask bird lovers in Hawaii. They're still suffering from a decision made in 1883. Sugarcane farmers wanted to get rid of the rats that were harming their fields, so they imported 73 Indian mongooses from Jamaica, hoping the weasel-like animals would eat the rats. The plan failed. But the mongooses thrived. Their population grew and grew. Before long, the mongooses had devoured so many bird eggs, rodents, and reptiles that they were endangering many species. The mongoose infestation continues even today. On some Hawaiian islands where the songs of birds once filled the air, you're lucky to hear a few chirps. This kind of ecological disaster is what experts fear will soon happen in the Everglades. Burmese pythons breed quickly and easily. A female can lay as many as 100 eggs during mating season. The snakes have adapted to different areas around the park, from the salty rivers and the freshwater ponds to the thick forests. They eat large quantities of almost anything, including reptiles, bird eggs, and sometimes even large mammals like deer. As their numbers grow, pythons threaten many kinds of animals, including endangered species. And what eats pythons? Rodents eat python eggs, but full-grown pythons are the kings and queens of the Everglades. What can be done? It is now against the law to bring Burmese pythons to the US to sell. This will help prevent new pet snakes from being abandoned in the wild. But the python invasion at the Everglades is already an environmental crisis. So what can be done? Teams of scientists are working to track and trap the snakes. And Florida leaders organize a yearly Python Challenge, in which hundreds of hunters compete to catch Burmese pythons. But it's not clear yet whether these efforts have helped reduce the python population. As one park ranger puts it, we are at war. Right now, the battle looks like a wrestling match between the alligator and the python. The struggle will go on for a long time. So far, nobody can say who will win. Invaders. America is being taken over by invasive species. Here are some of the biggest pests. Starling. These birds roost in groups of up to 1 million, and flocks have been known to devour up to 20 tons of potatoes in one day. Their droppings can spread diseases. Medfly. These tiny bugs feed on 250 different kinds of fruit, which is a nightmare for farmers in places like California. Wild pig. Some 6 million pigs run wild in states such as Texas, where they cause $400 million of damage every year. They gobble up entire crops and feast on deer, lambs, and calves. They settle in parks. They'll even munch through your lawn and harass your own pets. Asian carp. Asian carp have invaded rivers across Mississippi and Illinois. They can grow to be up to 100 pounds and eat 20 to 40% of their daily body weight every day. That means there isn't enough food left for other fish. Now we're moving on to tracking pythons, which is your second text. Tracking pythons. To research her new book, Author Kate Messner joined a team of snake scientists and ended up on a wild adventure. Here, she shares her story with Storyworks. The author was scientist Ian Easterling. Why was I in the wilds of southwestern Florida searching for pythons? I'd come to do research for my book Tracking Pythons: The Quest to Catch an Invasive Predator and Save an Ecosystem. It's about scientists from the Conservancy of Southwest Florida, a group working to solve Florida's python crisis. I was lucky enough to join the scientists on several research trips. Hide and seek. To reduce the python population, the scientists work to capture female snakes and collect their eggs. It's difficult to find female pythons. The snakes are expert hiders, but male pythons are good at finding females. That's because the females give off special chemicals called pheromones to attract mates. Since 2013, the scientists have caught more than 60 pythons and implanted them with radio transmitters. These chapstick-sized gadgets give off signals that help scientists to find male snakes in the wild, and then follow them as they search for females. Over the past 7 years, the Conservancy has removed more than 500 Burmese pythons and 3,000 eggs from the wild. Whoa. Scientist Ian Bartosik holds a captured python. Research adventure. I joined the scientists as they tracked signals from the snake's transmitters. We soared over the swamps in a small plane. We hiked through the brush to find pythons hidden in burrows. We waded into the muddy lake, keeping an eye on a nearby alligator. The researchers give the pythons names and tell stories about their adventures. You get attached, said Ian Bartosik, the project's leader. He pointed out that although pythons are damaging the ecosystem, this problem was created by people, not the snakes. They're just doing what snakes do best, he says. The scientists know that their project won't fully get rid of Florida's pythons, but they're hoping to keep the population under control and learn more about this invasive species. For me, spending time with the researchers offered an up-close look at a snake science and a reminder of how adventurous research can be.